So the reveal now of the top 5 begins with me.
Christopher.
I believe this triggers a discussion point as this is self-titled Iron Maiden.
Oh, here we go.
Straight into the deep dive, do you think?
Well, this is it. This is it, isn't it? This is the start of it all.
Iron Maiden.
Of which we will say the original version is far
it's
superior
so
to the
much.
touch-up on the remaster CD.
Can you hold that up? Because that is one of my favourite covers.
That is punk.
And they absolutely fucked it on the CD reissue.
I mean, just look at the back, you know. Collage at the bottom, live shot, all the trimmings.
Yeah. So Eddie there is an absolute icon.
Yeah.
And they really looked at Look at that.
The original is just a fucking... It's like a punk drawing. It's a punk rock to cover.
Yeah.
Maiden. Okay.
I mean, that in terms of artwork, before we even get started, this is the thing that kick-started stuff. This would be mimicked and ripped off, and you know, plagiarised for absolute years.
Rigs. It's amazing.
Any metal band of any genre or subgenre,
once they're ready,
that's what they want.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's exactly what they want.
So I've got it at 5, and
you didn't like the contents of it so much, though.
No, I didn't.
So you had it really low at
13.
and you had it at
number 6,
and I had it at 5. So I've got a high ranking on this one, so I'm just going to get stuck in. If you want all the elements of Maiden, nearly all of it's there, apart from Bruce's voice. The twin lead, Phantom of the Opera's got the prog.
Oh.
It's got the big chorusy single in Running Free. But yet, when you first hear Prowler, it's got that guitar. But what it hasn't got is that Maiden actual vibe with it. So you think, actually, you get left-footed slightly with it. But otherwise, the album...
opening guitar sound, that...
that raw, punky production, almost underproduced, I love. Harris hates it, right? He hates Will Malone's production on this record. But it's part of it. It's
so
ingrained
good.
as part of it. It suits Di'Anno, the punkier, spikier, geezery frontman. That spikier guitar sound and Will Malone's lack of production almost is just what gives it. I mean, any album that ends on Iron Maiden. I mean,
that is a hell of a tune.
Grief. I mean, it's just...
That is a hell of a tune.
The complexity of the playing and the speed of it. You know, for like... just take them now, man. For a 1980... British Steel is already a polished priest at this point, and out come these spiky Londoners, and they just throw this. I mean, it's even the weaker tracks. Charlotte the Harlot is not a strong track, but when Di'Anno's just got his fist up,
it's aggressive, isn't it?
Of course it is. And there's a little Transylvania's a bit far away, isn't it? It's a bit far away. Transylvania's a bit far away.
Instrumental.
It's a little bit disposable.
That's why I like it.
On it.
And one of the ones that hasn't got
you can argue that... you could argue that Strange World, and what's the other track on side 1?
Don't argue this. Don't bow to him.
No,
this is fucking
Only
phenomenal.
needs
Muted. Remember Tomorrow, yeah?
Sanctuary.
No, that's... Don't say that. Don't say Sanctuary, second track. You're looking at the reissue where they slipped it in.
Oh, no,
Second
really?
track is Remember Tomorrow.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, as I'm ranting, I'm just going to carry on with this,
No, you're right, sorry.
So,
shit.
Right, Remember Tomorrow and Strange World have a bit of a similar echo. There's got to be criticisms, but it's only 5. Only top 5. But overall, this is everything you want about Maiden. You know why they become so world domineering. Because once you put Bruce over this, that's the money.
That's the money, yeah.
But all the musical elements you want for Maiden are there. Some a bit more embryonic than others, but it's all there. The riffs, the arrangements, the speed, the twin leads, the melody, the gallop, it's all there. Even the prog in Phantom of the Opera, it's all there.
It is the blueprint.
But it's not refined.
No, of course it's not. But we'll talk about Sanctuary very quickly.
Sorry, yeah, go on.
Let's get to this point, because this is the birth of Maiden, this album, okay?
Look how excited he is talking about
this one.
This is it for him.
So
This takes you back, doesn't it, to your youth? This.
Yeah. So Harris, we won't do the story of Maiden because Harris has done it on the history DVD. But the bottom line is once that lineup's solidified with Burr, Stratton, Murray Harris, and Diano,
the only album to feature
Dennis Stratton.
Yeah.
They do the Soundhouse tapes off their own money, which is still incredible because it's got that extra track on it, hasn't it? Invasion. They're not supposed to kill
Yes.
They're not that goes later on a single. But the Soundhouse tape does amazing. So when they go with Will Malone and get the record deal, and they're part of the new wave of British heavy metal. But before that, they did 2 tracks for Metal for Mothers compilations, and then during this period, you get this Sanctuary non-album track, which has been inserted into the remaster in not in the right order. It is a non-album track, and
I didn't include it in my listening.
One of my all-time favourite Maiden tracks.
Because we were trying to go with that. Yeah, I didn't include it in my listening because I was trying to go with that typical no bonuses, no B-sides, no variants.
And just to talk about singles, we talked about Running Free as that big already early hit single, but there's that little third single that comes after this album before Killers, which is Women
in Uniform.
A cover of an Australian band called the Skyhooks, which they didn't want to do. They just wanted no part of any of it, but they still went along with it because they're young kids on a first record deal with EMI. You're going to get a bit carried along with it. Montrose cover on one of the B-sides. We talked about Montrose when we were looking at the covers that were done for Fear of the Dark.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And that's where the first obsession with Montrose is on this. But is what we've just talked about. Interesting, another little bit from the time period history. They do their own. Do a lot of support slots. The British Steel, they support Priest and the British Steel tour.
Well,
there's the Metal for Mothers interior sort of new wave of British heavy metal tour they do. Then they go out on their first, headlining tour, during which they support Kiss on their Unmasked tour.
Yeah. What a great tour as well.
God, Unmasked and debut
out the box Kiss, yeah.
Imagine they come out, bust out Shandy, and then out comes Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It's unreal.
So, there's a lot going on, and like I say, Sanctuary, the most important point of this is that Sanctuary is a non-album track, but fits perfectly on the album.
Great track, just couldn't include it in my listing.
So other bits around this time, Rod Smallwood becomes their manager early, which is why the ship is always fairly well steered.
Oh yeah.
And then at the end of this session, straight away, Dennis Stratton's given his marching orders, and we get Adrian Smith. And their next tour before Killers is the Breaking in Adrian Smith tour before he records. So, that's all the facts, and the facts of why I just absolutely adore this underproduced, gnarly, very unrefined album, because it is all there. And I've talked for ages.
It is. No. And I'm going to try and give Smithy the least airtime on this.
Yeah.
Because
I was going to say, there's no point really.
Yeah, no, but we do.
Because you both rate it. And I've really not got much to say.
I can't say enough about this record. It is top to bottom perfection for me.
It's just built as
and when I got into Maiden, I got into massively Power Slave and Fear of the Dark. For some reason, they were the ones, because Fear of the Dark was the newest and Power Slave was just the one I saw in the shop and asked me mum to buy. There was no other reason.
It wasn't the artwork.
Well, yeah, it certainly helped.
Everything.
I'm sure that would have helped. And then I had this after that, I think, and I didn't like it at all, because I was like, I've got Fear of the Dark, which has its own charm.
Yeah.
I've got potentially one of the greatest
albums ever
hard
made,
rock albums ever, hands down. So obviously to get the first one where it's real gritty, the songs are a little less refined, I'm thinking, this ain't a different singer, obviously. No, I'm not really feeling this. As the years have worn on, that appreciation of those first two records, and I think they're very close. I haven't mentioned the other one yet.
No. I
know the other one, but
I haven't mentioned the other one yet.
So the opposite end of the spectrum is someone who didn't rate it very highly.
So it's not that I don't rate it highly. Now the same thing can be said for Slayer with their first outing, Show No Mercy.
Yes.
The same thing can be said there, that there is a cohesion not there yet.
Yeah, definitely.
That you're still very, like Maiden, you could see by track who and what was influencing them at the time.
Yeah.
And that isn't a bad sign because it's a band who's trying to find their identity. But I think when they got the artwork and they got the logo and they moved on to Killers, I felt they found their identity more. And that's why I see Killers as a better record. Although I appreciate what this meant for music in general, and especially for metal and where it would go.
You think of we do a lot of Priest Maiden comparisons, but they're good ones. Priest debut, albeit 6 years earlier, 6 or 7 years, Rocker Roller. God Almighty! It's like you couldn't put them within 100 feet of each other.
No,
Rocker Roller and that, it's like, oh Jesus Christ!
Yeah. No,
Oh, Sad Wings of Destiny was just surely other. No, the debut Rock and Roller before this, it's like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's not even comparable.
By
the time they're doing this, Priest is doing British Steel.
Yeah, exactly.
This is still a better album than British Steel.
Yeah, it is. No, and it is, and this is the point I was going to say. Things like Priest, it took a hell of a long time. And if I look at their career, it's just trash for quite a long time, really. I don't take a great deal of enjoyment from some of it.
Until British Steel.
Until, like, British Steel. And, like, I mean, oh my God, let's not get into Priest, like we could do. But yeah,
why do we want to?
My issue is it's not cohesive. And I think if I had appreciated the history of Maiden with this, that might have helped. And the other thing that you've got is how early on in your Maiden journey you listen to this record. Yeah. So if you listen to it early on, you're going to go. It's going to have a good place in your heart. Basically, it's going to have a high ranking, simply because it's one of the earlier things that you were like into with Maiden. The first thing you were introduced to. Yeah. But with me, it was very much like I had bought all the classics before I added this to my collection. Yeah. When I added it, I was like, oh, I can see why I've left it.
It's more of a shock to the ear because you're so used to, most of their other records.
Whereas with you, you like you say, it's almost like the third record by Maiden that you've got into. Not like the 12th or whatever it was for me.
Yeah, really
for you, it would be like what?
Yeah.
The first album.
No, it wasn't. Jesus.
No, I'm joking. For you, it's first album.
But I think you're right. If you think about Killers, already Birch makes them sound more modern, more together, right? If Killers is an entry point, that makes even more perfect sense than this. Even this jars against Killers, and you've got the same singer. Yeah. And the songs on Killers, stop me till we get into it, are weaker than a lot of these, right? But it still sounds like a better Maiden album. Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't say they're weaker, because things like Charlotte the Harlot actually makes me laugh. But that's probably because I've watched him perform it like live quite recently, and
you charge him a $5 for starters, and then you charge.
He's got a bit Vince Neil, where the words are just moulding into each.
Vince Neil couldn't even get close to that.
No. Charlotte the Harlot.
Right, so that is the debut done. Anything else from you on this classic debut?
From myself, no. No.
So that was my number 5.
The rock world around them as well. Sadly, you've got Heaven and Hell have come out.
1980 is an incredible year, isn't it?
Motorhead, Ace of Spades.
Yeah.
Priest, British Steel. Ozzy, Blizzard of Oz. Yeah. Rush, Permanent Waves.
Back in Black.
My favourite.
AC/DC, Back in Black.
Look at that.
Even the cinema, you got Friday the 13th, Flash Gordon, The Shining, and The Fog. It's just the year.
Is it the best year?
Is it the best year?
Is it the best year for rock music?
In terms of metal, in pure metal,
Heaven and Hell was 1980. Yeah. Well, did you? Yeah.
So you've just got.
Wow.
What a year!
I'm stunned.
I know.
I'm not really into like. What was the best year for? But I am now.
Art, music, you name it. It was happening.
Maiden, Back in Black, Heaven and Hell. What else did you say?
Ace of Spades.
Okay, but I know it's supposed to be good. Permanent Waves. Wowzers.
The list goes on.
Blizzard of Oz. Oh, it's just a naughty year. If you were trying to see bands this year,
Blizzard of Oz. Spoiler alert: we will be going through some Ozzy, won't we? Yeah.
By the time we've finished all these more classic bands, me and him will have done Priest by accident.
Exactly. Yeah. That's our ulterior motive.
Suddenly a bit of paper will go up and be like, Priest, top 18.
You'll edit our first like 60 episodes together, and it'll be one cohesive monologue of Judas Priest.
Now that's going to be the DVD. That's the DVD commentary. It's the Priest top, whatever it is.
Priest and Whitesnake are both being covered in full.
This was your 5th favourite album. Do you want to go, or shall I go?
Number 5.
Number 5.
Peace of Mind.
Peace of Mind.
Which was the first Maiden album I purchased.
That was my number 6.
And it goes against my rule that most people will rank their favourite album by an artist as the first thing they've heard.
Yeah.
Whether they subconsciously or consciously aware of it.
Yeah.
In your mind, you're telling yourself. And before I started this process, Peace of Mind was going to be quite high. And then it got knock.
Where did you put it?
5th. And I only put it 5th because it's full of them, isn't it? It's full of absolute belters.
This
but anyway,
is.
So we've got
6,
5 and 5 for Peace of Mind.
Now hang on.
Now would yours be a discussion point as well?
Let's get. Mine didn't come that high, Lammy.
Oh,
my Peace of Mind came 11th.
11th.
So my 6 is a discussion. No, wait a minute. Your 5 is a discussion point. Peace of Mind.
Yeah.
I had it a 6.
My 5th isn't going to be a discussion point.
So tell us what it is.
It's going to be the first time this album is going to be shown.
First time it's shown or talked about.
Yes.
Oh, so
it's now biting.
Let's do Peace of Mind then.
Let's do Peace of Mind.
You can tell the old Maiden fan who wheels out all the albums up to Fear of the Dark on vinyl and then doesn't have any vinyl to show for any of the others. Lovely. I'll leave you the honours, Schmitz. Actually, you love doing the vinyl.
Peace of Mind. Iron Maiden's 4th album.
4th.
Oh my God.
They have gone through. They've gone through a singer. They've gone through a guitar player. They've gone through a drummer. Peace of Mind came out in 1983.
Yes, it did.
It features what I probably believe to be the definitive lineup of Iron Maiden.
Yeah. I don't think anything out of
Dickinson, Murray, Smith, Harris, McBrain.
Yeah.
Shit got real.
Now, my favourite lineup of Maiden, this is going to fuck with people, is to take Smith out and put in Gers. And that is my Maiden.
Wow.
However, I totally understand that this is the lineup, isn't it?
It is the lineup. It is the lineup. No question.
First album with one Nico McBrain,
who gets given the song to showcase yourself on with Where Eagles Dare.
Yeah.
Because let's just not piss about. As album openers go, we talked about Quick or Be Dead as an absolute incredible album opener, right?
Yeah.
This is better. Because this is just, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Nico is just it's just relentless. The song is relentless. The time signatures, the fills. It's just like, Jesus Christ. And they're with him. It's difficult to tell whether they needed someone else because they were going to do this, or he came along and then they end up doing this.
Well,
I've never made that clear in the history
Didn't
books.
he upskill to do that? Didn't he hear Where Eagles Dare and realised he had to do that tempo and he had to do that drum fill?
I don't know.
And the drum fill itself was quite bloody complex for him to get his head around. So he just spent days working kick drum. That's it, because he refused to double pedal, wouldn't he? And he worked on it.
Mad.
Yeah.
To the point that they come into the studio and went, Jesus Christ, he's got it.
Yeah. It's insane. And Bruce's vocal is relentless in it as well. Hits the big soaring choruses, but he just goes with it. His vocal, he's going with the drums.
Machine gun, isn't it?
It's relentless. And then after, of course, you get that massive riff break.
It's all right.
Jesus Christ, man.
11. It's all right, he says.
It's just up there.
Artwork, tunes, line-up, integrity, delivery, cohesion. The album is flawless.
It is.
If not, your issue, I would imagine, is probably...
So before he reaches his issue, I'm going to take that word up with flawless.
Yes.
This made for me...
I totally... I'm enjoying listening to
number 6, right?
Mm.
It got pushed out of the top 3 because I consider it to be really badly sequenced. So, side 1 is an almost flawless side of Maiden vinyl.
Yeah.
You go from Where Eagles Dare to Revelations to Icarus to Diamond. That is an almost flawless side of Maiden vinyl. You then go to The Trooper, and you are unstoppable 5 songs. Unstoppable 5 songs.
Yeah.
They are then they then follow it on with 4 more that are not as strong as the first 6 at all. They are all great songs. There's big choruses. Trying to do the book Dune in a 6.5 minute, 7 minute song is a level of insanity that's hard to fucking fathom. However, when he's gabbling on about the Muad'Dib and the Gom Jabbar, I've read the book.
Is that to Tame a Land?
Yeah, and I'm like, Jesus. But the point I'm making is you can't have those six bangers up to Still Life and have 3 songs I consider to be quite weaker than the rest.
Yeah.
And so the album to me hits a brick wall and doesn't get back up to those heights. And that's why it didn't make the 3.
And
but I think if it was more sequenced than those first, just better sequenced,
right?
I think it would have stayed in the 3 where I immediately thought it was going to be. Okay. I love the final 3 tracks, but they do not touch those first 7.
Ooh, that's controversial for me.
The first 6.
That's the chink in the armour for me. Is Sun and Steel breaks the album, can't get higher for me because of that tune.
I agree.
And I also agree with you in the sequencing of the album, but I think that would have really helped if they hadn't had that tune on there at all and it had just gone for an 8-tracker. To finish on To Tame a Land would have been great. Which it does, but what I mean is to just do the 8 tracks and then that's it, over and done with. Sun and Steel, it's a weird song on there.
Is that Discovering of Man?
It's sunlight falling on you.
Oh, damn.
That one.
Right. Down is your ideal.
Yeah.
Life is like a wheel.
That's what he likes.
But I do want to go...
the Trooper, I want Sun and Steel live.
I do want to go quickly back to what you said about the June thing, because that's one of my favourite little tidbits, little facts with Maiden, and that is the Frank Herbert quote.
Yes.
When he heard that they wanted to call To Tame a Land June.
Yes.
And under no certain terms was that going to happen.
Could they? That's a shame.
To the point that he said, in a quote as a representative to them, Frank Herbert doesn't like rock bands, particularly heavy rock bands, and especially heavy rock bands like Iron Maiden. Done. Full stop. So then Bruce went, I'm still going to sing about June. Yeah. We'll call it To Tame a Land. And then, I just love that though.
No mincing of words there.
He got his reps to write that. It's not happening.
Shame, really.
It is really.
So let's give a quick few Maiden facts before you throw your high, very low, or your middling ranking.
Middling.
So the first thing that it's going to dovetail into United in a minute. So the first single of Maiden is Flight of Icarus, which is probably the most commercial track on the album. Quintessential Maiden single again. It gets you right set up. It's in that group of 6 songs I've said that are all classics, that are all clustered together.
Yeah.
And then the second single, which will lead into you in a little bit, is of course The Trooper.
Yes.
For so many people, you go, well, it's How to Be Thy Name, but it's The Trooper.
Yeah.
Kind of as your go-to Maiden tracks. The ultimate gallop, maybe.
I love it.
It's relentless.
I don't care how many times I've heard it.
Interesting.
And the same thing happened last night listening to Slayer. I heard Angel of Death, and in my mind I was thinking to myself, oh God, I've heard this so many times. No, Rain in Blood, sorry. Yeah. Angel of Death's classic. Yeah. It was Rain in Blood. But then halfway through the tune I was like, no, this is an absolute belter. There's a reason why this is great.
Shredded.
And that's the same with The Trooper. I can't get enough of it. I did hear the start of it and think, oh, it's a Troopy, I've heard it loads of time. Once in there, I'm like, well, this is a great tune.
So we're in the era of amazing singles. You've got Jethro Tull covers, well, part of the B-sides. First proper VHS gets released with video pieces. Again, World Peace Tour, noticeable for the killing of Eddie at the last show at Dortmund, which leads on to Power Slave. So this whole idea of these albums, probably the next couple being thematically linked, is triggered. The theory they are all properly linked is because of this Dortmund show where Eddie is killed. Graphically, which was on this 12 Wasted Years VHS and DVD, which is then on the Live After Death reissue. That footage was not shown very often, pulling the brain out. And obviously, we've talked about him a lot. This is Nico joining.
Yeah.
So this is a huge change. It solidifies what we've said is probably the definitive classic Maiden lineup.
Yeah.
The last piece of the puzzle that's going to send them into this first Imperial phase where they'll be bigger than any other metal band on the planet. And Nico's joining is a big thing because, as we've said, Burr's drumming is amazing on those opening albums, and he really hits a peak with Number of the Beast.
Yeah.
But we have said, we're not saying Nico's a better drummer, but we're saying when it comes to Maiden, Nico was the better drummer.
Yeah.
And Mere Eagles Dare shows that. So we're saying that this Maiden's gone up. Smith takes them up on Killers. Bruce takes them up on Number of the Beast.
Yeah.
Nico's the final step towards greatness on Peace of Mind. So
For
the
sure.
3 albums, those 3 other key members that Murray and Harris needed to complete it, come along over 3 albums. This is it. Nico's in now, and from this point onwards, we're off and running.
Love that.
So The Trooper, the second single, and you've got a lot to say about The Trooper, or maybe you're just going to gob on the floor just by that.
I've got a lot to say, I just don't like that
I'm not sure about the Trooper.
Listen, like, I put Peace of Mind in at 11, which is probably my most controversial, according to you, placings. And on paper, I'd agree with that, probably.
What's it doing?
I understand why it is heralded as such a classic. It is the definitive Maiden lineup. I don't think it has the songs of Knob. I don't think it has the songs of Power Slave.
That I agree with.
Okay.
Oh, that I totally agree with.
I don't agree with your Knob.
Yeah, I don't agree with you, Knob, either.
I will, if we go through songs, and we spoke about this in previous episodes, but some of the rationale is the old Skipperoonie as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
This for me,
just the one.
This is going to. Is it just the one?
Yeah.
This is going to be a little bit shocking for you boys. I've got at least 3 skips on here, right?
I don't actually skip my one either. I just don't like it as much. What about yours?
No. This is one of my least favourite Iron Maiden songs on here.
Okay.
Die with your boots on.
Okay.
If you're gonna die with your boots on. If you're gonna something, if you're gonna die with your. Fuck me. We get it. Yeah. It's not a song. It's
afraid to shoot strangers. Afraid to shoot strangers. I get where you're coming from. I just find the rationale odd.
Mate, and the thing is, in some of it, I've noticed how often Bruce Dickinson, for a chorus, will just repeat the same line. And I never got this before. I never clicked until really we're doing this. So you're absolutely right. Some of my biggest critique of track is identical
to the one that you think's the best.
Some of my absolute faves. I totally take that. Die with your boots on. Again. There is no shit Maiden, right? So I'm nitpicking.
Yeah.
You know, I would like a whole album of Die with Your Boots On against most other fucking heavy metal album, right? But Die with Your Boots On for me. The Trooper, I'm not that into it. Again, it's.
Is it a bit battle metal for you?
It's a little bit like. I know that's like one of the most quintessential things that pacings that Maiden are famed for. It does something about it. Quest for Fire. Again, it's almost got that too much of that almost battle metal.
Yeah.
This is the power metal album for me. Although I like some bands of that ilk. Really only Halloween that could be lumped in with that. We're not big on subgenres, are we? Because
because music's music to us. But
Like, it's that side of heavy metal that is, I think, in abundance on this that just puts me off a tad. And the same with Southern Steel. I think the first three tracks are absolute stone colds. Yeah. Revelations is secretly one of my favourite Maiden songs. To Tame a Land's you know, they use the classic lengthier album closer to fantastic effect from that song onwards.
It's a point.
So for me, and it's just as flashed in my head, much like your Fear of the Dark EP is quite up there. I would say Where Eagles Dare, Revelations, Flight of Icarus, Still Life I really, really like, and To Tame a Land. That would be my 5-track EP that would probably hit top 5 quite easily.
I like that. Cool.
That's why Peace of Mind for me is a little lower. Controversial, I know.
It is controversial, but even something in the 4 above it for me is surprising compared to it. And it isn't if I compare the albums. Because I get what you mean about the power thing. This album is a bit of a break from the classics from that era. Like, there's a lot of things like Somewhere in Time, Seventh Son, Power Slave. They've got a lot of things in common that keep them tightly knit. And Peace of Mind I do see outside of that. Because again, like, for
me, it's the blueprint for that style of what they are going to become.
But they're still
beyond
Nico's only Nico's only just joined. So again, the argument could be said they haven't fully found their feet yet.
No, not after one album.
Not after one album.
And doing then the tour. That's what will get them to find their feet. You're absolutely right with that. But you'll need the tour afterwards as well to really... He's playing all the older stuff, etc., etc. And that's where it'll work, which is why we know what happens in the next one. But that's another story.
It is.
So that was my number 6.
My 5. And your 11.
Are you happy with Peace of Mind then?
I am.
In terms of discussions.
I am.
It's an absolute classic.
It's an important album.
It's
an important album.
For me, it's more important than Knob in Maiden history.
Yeah, that's the same with me. But again, I don't know if in my mind it's because that was the first one that I picked up. When I kind of heard, like I say, when my ears pricked up to things like Brave New World, I was then going to look at things. And that one, that artwork just struck me at the time.
It's cool. Lobotomy Eddie.
So that was the rationale for buying that at the time. It was like, if you're going to get into Maiden, that looks like a pretty sick album to start with.
That is true.
You're not wrong.
But unlike a lot of my favourite albums by bands, this is the break from the norm. Because this is the one that doesn't fit my favourite album being the first thing I've heard. Which 99% of my music collection, that rule sticks for.
Mate, it's a thing. It is a thing, isn't it?
So
definitely.
All
Peace
right.
of Mind at 5.
So Peace of Mind was 5 for Smith, 6 for me, and 11 for you. So you've got to reveal your 5.
5.
Exactly.
We are in top 5 Maiden. For me, we're almost to the point where on any given day you could potentially have these top 5 as your favourite Iron Maiden album of all time.
Exactly.
Give or take. I don't think we're quite there yet for me, but it's very much nearing. This, I don't think it's going to be controversial.
Nothing's controversial at this height now.
I agree. I agree. Don't know. See what you think. In at 5, there's a bit of thought into this because it's come higher in years previous.
Right. Yes.
My number 5, I'm dragging this out for no reason. My number 5 is the absolute Stone Cold classic, the phenomenal Somewhere in Time.
So not a discussion point yet then. No.
Definitely
Somewhere in Time is my
number 5.
Number 5.
So then I've got to say number 4.